recording. Schedule A2, the street and utilities amount is $882,660. And we're recommending deductive alternate B2A.
Janelle,
tongue and groove. Yes.
I'm sorry, it's Forrest. So is somebody else taking minutes for this, or is the recording the only minutes?
Kim's still here taking minutes.
Oh, okay, Kim's is okay. So as long as Kim's taking minutes, we're good. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure somebody else was doing that as well, that we didn't have to start all over again. Thank you.
Oh, I got it, Forrest.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
We just like the recording as a backup.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Okay. So the deductive alternative recommended is the tongue and groove board ceiling in place of the Armstrong Woodworks for a deduction of $11,030. So the total project cost, if awarded to Baldwin, or not to Baldwin, to Wildish, would be $6,025,230. This is not the entire cost of the project, however, and we thought because these bid prices are they're pretty well aligned with our estimate, but they are higher than we were thinking a couple of years ago, or even a year ago. We wanted to touch on the budgeting before you make your decision, so you have an idea of how this would fit in with the rest of the city's budget. So, like I said, the bid amount is not the total project cost. There are additional costs which are listed here. So we have a bid award amount. We also have a contingency. We've got to have, we hope we don't use it, but we need to have that for every project. We'll be carrying some insurance on the project for the building as it's constructed. There's owner furnished testing that the city has to pay for separately. And then our owner's rep, and this is Jeff Woodward, his time. And then we also have equipment and furnishings for the station. This comes out of a different line item in our budget, so we account for it differently. And then our architect, engineer support during construction. This is part of their contract that we've already signed. We're already planning on this, but this is how it adds up in the context of the whole project cost. And then we have our capital project costs out of our enterprise funds for the street, water, and sewer and storm work that's outside of the limits of the project itself, the public road. And those are broken down as well. So wanted to make everyone aware that we will be working with the architect and contractor to identify cost savings that we could try to incorporate during construction. We do have a built into our construction documents a 50-50 cost split for savings that are identified by the contractor as motivation to hopefully look for ways to save money. So we will be actively working for that. And then a little bit more about our budget. I think Kevin was going to cover this part.
So just wanted to share with you where we would be. So we had, as of June 20th, we have beginning fund balance of $7,056,424. We expect expenditures from that balance of about $1,650,000, and included in that is station construction, about $1.4 million that would be expended this year out of this year's budget if council moves forward on the construction. So our current estimate for taxes levied collection this year is 2.1, and you can see our total estimated revenues of 4.5. So we'd have total resources with our beginning fund balance and what we are projecting for revenues of 9.9, just short of $10 million. So our estimated expenditures for next year for personnel and materials and services and emergency services, you'll notice emergency services is a big one. That would be the remainder of budget for the construction of the station that would come from general fund. So we'd have a total estimated expenditures next year of $8.9 million. That would leave us remaining reserves of 1.3, and then we also have contingencies that are built into our budget each year. So the $630,000 in contingency plus the equipment reserve fund of 102. So we'd have total reserves of 1,763,000. So we still have that. So if you look at where we are on an annual basis, so our total estimated revenues is for next year would be 4.5. And if we were to take out the station, our total proposed general operating fund is 3.6. So we're seeing usually about estimated annual revenues above requirements of about 884,000. So after next year, we would expect to see those reserves continue to build back up again. So that's where we are with what we would be at. So when you look at it, we have the funds available. If council so elects to go, and we would still have reserves of about $1.7 million with our annual operating expenses. If we don't look at any capital, about 3.7 annually.
Kevin,
Any questions on that?
Yeah, Kevin, we had 2.5 million in reserves for the construction for this project, right?
That's what, yeah, but that 2.5 is part of our beginning fund balance.
That's what I was going to ask you. Okay, I assumed that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Are you finished, Janelle?
So our last slide here is what we've already said earlier in the presentation. Based on the evaluation of the submittals in accordance with the adopted and published scoring criteria, staff recommend award of Schedule A and deductive alternative B to Wildish. And there's a motion there if you choose to go that route. I know we went through those numbers pretty quickly. If you need me to go back to any previous slides to look at anything, just let me know.
This does not include the bifold doors. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. And you went to Eugene on Friday to look at a project that they completed. Is that also correct?
Yes, we went down and looked at 2 projects that Wildish was part of.
Can you give some
And
feedback on that?
Yes. So the references that we have talked with all gave high marks to them. And from what we could see, one was a fire station, one was a lab, work in a lab. So very similar type of things that you could see, in the fire station. So, and everyone that we've talked to, we had very good recommendations for Wildish.
Is there an opinion among the committee, your group, of whether or not we should pursue the bifold doors?
My recommendation for the cost would be no.
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
go back to so the cost of the bifold doors is alternative B1. So you'd add $135,000 almost to the project base if we're going with
Yeah,
Wildish.
thank you. Thank you. I'll open it up for council comments or questions, please. Dave, were you able to hear enough to help make a decision in your mind?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
There?
yeah. Can you hear
Yeah,
us?
what was that?
I just
Mayor?
wondering, were you able to get enough information to be able to contribute to conversation here? And you got any questions at all?
No, I got the gist of everything, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Scott McPhee, Scott Cowan, John, comments, concerns, questions?
This is Scott, just looking at the numbers there, just taking a look at the different ones, and appreciate all the work that the group did to come up with that. Seems like quite a bit of checks and balances and just being really thorough. So I appreciate the committee doing that for us, laying it out.
Okay. Well, if there's no questions or comments, and I'm not trying to rush at all, if somebody will make a motion, if there's nothing else to talk about.
Are you saying there's the closing to the comments? Is that what you're doing right now?
I'm sorry, Scott, say it again, please.
This is Dave. Sorry about that. Are you asking for closing comments? Is that what you're saying?
No, I asked you, do you have any further comments prior to somebody making a motion one way or the other?
Well, I would. So, did we ever? I didn't hear a number that was for the estimated total cost with all the inclusions of what may or may not happen.
Right.
Does anybody else know that, or has that was
Yeah,
that
we-
discussed?
We saw it. She may not have repeated, said it out loud. I don't recall, but we did
Back
see
to
that.
the estimate we had from December.
Stand by, Dave.
You would like the total project cost if awarded to Wildish with the recommended alternate? Is that what you're asking for?
Essentially, what
No.
is what I'm looking for is, so we have to factor in what could potentially happen, right? As far as budgeting goes, like if we were to expend this much money over what the bid is because of certain change orders or whatever else may be. What is that amount?
Okay. So, yeah, you can't see the slide. So when we talked about the bid amount is not the total project cost or additional cost.
Right.
So for the general fund, the bid amount, and this is taking out the public improvements, but the bid amount is $5,142,570, and then we are showing a 5% contingency in the amount of $257,128.50.
Okay.
And then we have some additional costs, which I can go through again if you'd like, for insurance.
No, that's fine. So you're looking at 5.4-ish.
With all of those things added, it's $5,628,000 and some change.
And that's with the 250 you just spoke of too. So it's
Yep.
5.4, then that's 2 whatever, and that's so it's 5.6.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's without the road and street improvements, right? So we're separating that out.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. That's the question I had.
Okay, good. Any other questions?
Hey, just to clarify, so with that slide that I'm seeing, am I on? Yeah, I'm talking. Here we go. I see the award bid, the contingency. That's just to keep it. What was that? You said that's 5%, right?
It's 5%. Yep.
Yeah.
And we hope we don't need all of that.
Right. So that's money.
That's pretty standard.
Right. Standard. The insurance that's money spent though, correct?
Yes, so the insurance, we elected, in talking with our insurance agents and others and the architects, we elected, rather than having that included in the contract and paying the upcharge for it, that we are paying that direct. So we are going through our insurance agent to provide the insurance on the building during construction.
And that's an extra 10,000
Yeah, that's for about 15 months of insurance.
coverage on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And then we'll switch over to our normal account once the building's constructed and built.
So I guess looking at those numbers, let me see, equipment furnished, A&E support. So really the only thing that's on the board there is that potential 257,000 and change for the contingency that could be, obviously it's going to fluctuate. It's dependent on how the project goes, but everything else is basically a hard number that we need to know that we're going to spend, correct?
Yes, if you look at what we shared in the budget numbers, that's what I would look at, knowing that, yes, hopefully we don't have to spend the contingency, and we're also hopeful that maybe we can find some cost savings
Right.
to bring it down. So the number you saw is, our goal is not to, that number is a not to exceed that we.
Yeah, not to exceed.
That's
Yeah.
the goal.
The owner's rep and the architect engineers support during construction. Those are time and materials. I would assume we're going to spend it all on this project, but it will be billed as spent, not as a lump sum upfront.
Okay, so that's built on time. Okay.
Yeah, and this is billed, like we're already paying these regularly for projects,
Right.
And we could see the general fund amount come down a little bit. There may be, one of the things we'll look at is, Janelle's going to check, is to make sure that there wasn't any funds captured in the bid that should be towards the enterprise funds, towards the street and utilities costs.
It wouldn't change the total, but
It may change.
when we get their schedule of values, which is one of the first submittals, and really see all the pieces, we may say, okay, that really belongs in the enterprise fund instead. And we'll look for those things and make sure that we're capturing everything in enterprise funds that belongs there.
Okay. And then, I know you talked about the bifold doors, B1. What about B2? Where did we land on that one? Those alternates, are those?
Yep. So
um,
B1 is the bifold doors. We're not recommending that. How's
Right.
that? You can change that if you would like. B2, both of the B2s are deductive for the most part. This way, the negatives there. And they're for different ceiling options for the wood ceilings. So we felt like that something that would be really nice to have in certain parts of the station. But this 2A is a different type of wood ceiling, which would be manufactured on site. And 2B is just a gypsum board sheetrock ceiling. We're recommending 2A, just we think that that's going to give a better finished product.
And it'll tie it in similar to what we have here at City Hall, where
Yeah.
we have some wood ceiling accents.
But
There's
you certainly could go with 2B if you would like to instead. It's either or, it's not, you can't choose both.
Right. But so that the 2A, the B2A is included in the proposal of that you've presented. Is that correct?
Yes.
In the 6,036,260 there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That clarifies what I had on questions.
There's a positive caveat on this slide. If you look at it closely, the closeness of the bids, the bulk of these bids, relatively to one another, all fairly close. And you compare those with the project estimate. In fact, the winning bid is right on. That tells you got a pretty good scope document to work from. It's consistent in the bids that we received and close to the actual estimate. I've seen a lot of these, and I don't see that many that close. So that's a huge sign. Coupled with the work that I believe went into the identifying of the scope by a lot of folks here in the area, I would hope that contingency is not needed that much. This should be pretty closely related bid, for what that's worth. Anybody else got a comment? John, you're awful quiet. Okay, John, Scott McPhee, any comments?
No, I think we've looked it over and it's a lot of money and we're kind of where we need to be, I guess. I don't think it's getting any cheaper.
No, it's not.
Scott McPhee?
Yeah, so one question I have, I was kind of looking up Wildish here, some information on what I could find on the internet. So they did the Albany wastewater treatment plant, correct?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And there's no concerns there with what we have going on down there?
No, we actually had good feedback from Albany from a construction standpoint.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I just wanted to bring that up. Other than that, I mean, it's a lot of money, a lot of money. So, but like you said, close to bid. I'd be curious to see what Councilor Harms thinks. But
So, Councilor McPhee, one of the things that so the lab that we looked at was Eugene Springfield's, and they've done a lot of work for them, and we're pleased with them, and we continue to have them doing work.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed. They do a lot of OSU stuff too. It looks like a lot of research studies, stadium, the ag building, multiple OSU stuff. So it's definitely a good thing there.
And they do have two branches, just so everyone knows, their building division and then their paving, which is, I think most of their public works stuff is done under paving, their buildings, but the lab was done under their buildings division. Good feedback from both sides. And I'm familiar with them from the public works side previously.
Harms here. Can you hear me? I'm nervous that you can't hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay. I'm actually familiar with Wildish. My shop's done some work for them before years ago, and everybody I've ever worked with there has always been real good, and they have a good reputation as far as I've always come across. So I'm not worried about that part. This is probably my last of my comments on it. I'm glad that the bids all came in relatively close, and I think everybody did a good job doing that. So yeah, I appreciate that for sure. Kind of the second comments of the mayor. I am a little bit concerned with the amount and then and the scope, but I'm leaving that to the professionals, which we've got to have some faith there, right? Because those are the only conversations I've had with anybody in the community is, do we need this? Do we need this much of this? I don't know. I mean, again, I'm leaving that up to the professionals. So I just want to, I'm hoping that it sounds like we nailed the bidding process of it. I'm just hoping that we nailed the scope too. And that will remain to be seen. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think you guys did a good job. And I just hope that everybody in the future thinks that.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Anybody else? Going once? Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, Scott, I move to award the Millersburg Fire Station 15 project Schedule A and the deductive alternate B2A to Wildish Paving Company, DBA Wildish Building Company, in the total amount of $6,025,230.
Second.
Motion from Scott Cowan, second from Scott McPhee. Any further discussion? If not, please go ahead and vote using your, Dave, you're going to have to tell us what you want to do.
Aye.
Okay. So I'm counting 4. Who am I at? 1, 2, 3.
Me, it's Cowan. I'll just say aye.
Okay. Thank you. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you so much.
And
Thank you.
Mayor, may I step in, Mayor? Please, Councilor Cowan, I just want you to be able to acknowledge, we'll just put it on the record, that you work for Albany Fire Department, and but this is not a financial benefit to you in any fashion. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And you feel that you can use your professional judgment as a city councilor to do the best interest you can for the city of Millersburg in moving forward.
Yes, I do.
On this project. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Cowan.
Okay. Any further discussion on the fire station? I'd like to thank Kevin, Janelle, Scott Cowan's participation earlier in the project. It's been a long time coming. We talked about this back, 2017 with the public. we got support for doing it, so it's been 4 years almost. So good work, everybody. Thank you so much for doing that.
Mayor, I would just say, it was really interesting. Janelle and I, when we were looking at stuff and looking at some of the numbers we saw for fire stations, and realized, it was 4 years ago. And, I think we were all caught off a little bit, because if you look at what we saw in 17 was in line with what we were initially thinking our cost would probably be per foot. But the amount of change that we've seen in the last 4 years and that cost, and we're seeing it in pretty much all stations that are career staff stations that are designed for career stations. So, but it's when you look at almost a $200 increase per foot, that I think, as everyone knows, I guess if we look at what's happened with home construction, even on that, but definitely with the essential services side. So.
And you don't need to hear my personal comments, but I'm going to tell you anyway, back in 2017 at that last particular meeting, I remember making a fool of myself and saying, yes, we can do this without a bond, and yes, we can do this without a tax increase. And I got some weird looks and questions, and I felt stupid afterwards. I didn't really know that. My gut said that, and by gosh, we did that without a bond and without a tax increase. So it wasn't that wrong after all. All right, moving on. Any additional closing public comment. Please talk to us if you have a question or concern. Anybody in the public? Okay. Nothing else? Any closing council comments?
Appreciate all the work that's gone forward in this. As you pointed out, yeah, this is going to be a long-term capital project for our city, and you know, and serve us for, you know, 50, 75 years from now. It will be there. So just really appreciate the city and the support from the community on it.
Yeah, I want to say thank you guys too for, especially you, Scott, Cowan, Kevin, Janelle, everybody for putting this all together. I know there was a lot of behind the scenes work that the rest of us as counselors probably didn't see, because you guys have a lot of effort into this. Thank you for that. One question I do have is, what are we looking at for a start date on this, Kevin?
What?
So we've got some required timelines here over the next few weeks. Tomorrow we'll issue notice of intent to award, and then there's a protest period, and then we'll issue notice of award. And the contractor's got to get their stuff together, their paperwork. So we're looking at an earliest mid-April start date, I think. That would be pretty quick, but if the contractor's ready to jump on board right away, that could happen. We didn't give them a required start date. We gave them a required end date. So end of May next year.
May of next year?
May of next year, yeah.
And one of the things we will need to have discussion on, you can just think about it now and maybe let the mayor know, but if you would like to do a groundbreaking for this project. So something to think about.
I mean, we got to invite the newspaper.
You can.
How fast? It's up to you guys.
Hey,
Honestly,
It's not necessary, but we definitely want to do a ribbon cutting when we open the station. But I didn't know if you would want to, if there is interest in doing a groundbreaking or not.
I would really welcome comment from council on that, please.
real quick, this is Harms. I want to second what Scott and I believe the mayor all said on that. Yeah, do appreciate all the work. I know it was a lot of time to get this kind of bid put together and the scope of the work and everything. I really do appreciate that. And there's probably still going to be a lot more to do. So I appreciate for all the effort that's ahead too as well.
I second that. Thank you.
I have a feeling that there will be a number of us besides our contractor rep going by there on a daily basis, watching and looking for savings.
And I'll pass that along to the architect too, because they put in a lot of work, especially at the end. She put in a lot of hours.
Yeah, let them know that it's really amazing how close they came to their actual estimate. That's
Yeah.
really amazing. It's a good sign, really good sign. Okay, no other comments? Please give Kevin or I your thoughts regarding groundbreaking, seriously. And then we'll talk to you all later. This meeting is going to be adjourned at 7:17. Thank you, folks. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. You guys take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.